is the 10th of October 2014. Today's subject that I think could just be an interesting thing is talking about how in recent years we are able to communicate with spirits real time. When I, in my 20s, used to try to capture EVPs on, analog tape, it was difficult. It was very, very difficult because you couldn't hear anything real time. I don't know whether that was because of the technology. I don't really know. And to be honest with you, I don't think I really ever captured anything. I can remember capturing some things, but I didn't have the technology to enhance audio on tape and such like. So in recent years, what's actually seems to be happening is people are producing scanning radios. I believe that's what they are. They are radios that have been modified to auto-scan channels, on the AM or FM channel or frequencies, and basically it's flicking through. It's like turning the dial, a manual dial on a radio, like you used to do years ago, or scanning. You keep the search button pressed all the time, and it's scanning through every single frequency within a certain band, and somehow the spirits are able to communicate. They I don't know whether they're able to piece together. I mean, there seems to be certain different technologies. We've got the radio scanning technology, which is very, very clever, and somehow I don't know whether spirits are able to transmit, if they're close proximity to a device like a receiver, whether they can kind of tune into... Well, no, they're not tuning into a radio frequency, are they? Because the scanning radio is constantly changing. So that's quite interesting. I've just realised that. They can't be transmitting. Maybe they have the ability to transmit on a whole range of frequencies. I don't know. It's another thought. But then, how does the EchoVox app work, and how does the GB1 app work? Because they are databases full of pre-recorded, a bit like recording the scanning of multiple frequencies on a radio. They are it's like a pre-recorded database of scanning. So, and the GB1 is using the technology, if it's available, of Bluetooth. But then some computers don't have Bluetooth and it still works. So how does that work? There's a lot of questions in this subject, a lot of questions. Now, I don't know whether somebody has the answers on how this works, or whether it's just one of these subjects that just works. No one understands it, a bit like a black box, affair, that no one really understands how it works, but it just works. It is interesting. It is interesting, and it's something that's actually fascinated me since a lot of these devices have actually come around. I believe the PSB7 box is also a frequency scanning device that allows spirits to come through, piece together wording, sentences with from bits and pieces of words, and it's actually really, really clever. Now, why does things like white noise and radio scanning frequencies and a database of words, which are kind of all three different things, how do they manipulate the device that's recording that or receiving that? That's I believe, a really, really good question. And why is it that some devices, I mean the AM and FM band of frequencies, why do some devices work better than others? Another big question. The PSB-7 apparently is a really good device, and yet it's such a small, simple device, and yet the PSB-11, which is a more complicated device and apparently has a lot more flexibility built into it with a lot more options, and yet people complain that it's actually not as good as the PSB-7. So, you know, quite interesting. I find the GB1 to be an excellent device. I mean, you know, it's an excellent app. I run it on a Toshiba laptop with a Bluetooth dongle, an old Bluetooth dongle, and it works really, really excellently. I mean, the quality is amazing. The responses are absolutely amazing. Now, the GB1 has a piece of software that allows you, it's got an analyzer piece of software that allows you to capture the recordings onto the computer that is running the software. That's also really interesting. So are the spirits using the hardware? You know, it's difficult to actually understand, because obviously the application is running, it's pieced together, and it's obviously going through a speaker, but then at the same time the software is actually running on the laptop and it's recording the responses. So how does that work? In a way I can kind of understand how the way I do it, which is I have an external recorder and possibly a video recorder, you know, recording the laptop and the speaker, and I'm picking up the responses that way. You know, that way I could kind of understand how maybe a spirit could interfere with the airwaves, either vibrations or something on the recorder, or are they actually manipulating the recorder itself? You know, I don't know. That, you know, some interesting questions there. I think the answers sometimes apply to one thing, but then not something else, because if you've got a PSB-7, which is basically a scanning radio, it's not recording anything directly, it's just receiving information through a channel and then pushing it out through a speaker, which you then have to capture. The only way you can actually capture it is on an external recorder or a video. So in that instance, is the spirit interfering with the reception of the radio waves? Are they interfering with the actual device itself? Are they interfering with the speaker? You know, maybe they're interfering with the actual speaker, or I don't know. They must be doing something with, let's say, a scanning radio in order for you to actually hear the responses come through the speaker. There must be something that they are tuned into, or that they can manipulate somehow. And the other interesting thing is, no matter which one of those devices you use, that you know, I mean, even on the simplest level, I can go to a building wherever, and all I will have is my digital recorder. You know, on the simplest level, you can pick up EVPs on a simple digital recorder. Now, again, are they manipulating the microphone, the airwaves? It's not picking up frequencies like a radio. So, and they are actually responses recorded on the media inside a digital recorder. Are they manipulating the electronics inside the recorder? Or are they, in a way, speaking like a physical person right next to the microphone? Maybe they're altering the sound waves somehow that the digital recorder can pick up. I think that actually begins to make a little bit of sense, because people do hear spirits with their ears, and our ears are built to receive sounds or to listen to sounds via radio, via waves of air, traveling through air. So maybe that's how they're doing it, but that doesn't really explain the scanning radio or the GB1 app on a computer, because it's not listening to radio waves. You're not using a microphone. You're not really using a microphone. I don't use a microphone on my computer, so they can't be altering the frequencies near a microphone on my laptop, because I always record everything, my voice and their response, on a digital recorder. It is very, very interesting subject. It is an interesting subject. How are the spirits able to communicate? And also, for a spirit that's never, like a child, for instance, they wouldn't necessarily know. How would they wouldn't even know. A child that possibly died 100 years ago, how would they wouldn't even know about a radio. They wouldn't know about a digital recorder or a video recorder. So again, I think the answer is probably, in some instances, simpler than I'm thinking it through, but then complicated on the other hand, because like the GB1 software, I don't really understand how they're coming through that. If anyone has answers to any of these questions, or their own ideas or thoughts about the technical aspect of how spirits are able to communicate, I would really welcome your thoughts and your ideas, and maybe we can discuss it. I think it's a fascinating subject. Somebody must have an answer somewhere, or maybe there isn't an answer, it just works. Maybe that is the answer. Just like a crystal ball works, just like dowsing works, just like, a lot of other things that we don't really understand how it works, but it just works. And communicating with spirits, by whatever means, seems to just work. And it's obviously very clever the way it works, and we accept the way that it works because it does. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for listening, and I welcome your thoughts and your insights into how do you think spirits are able to communicate with us on so many different levels, using so much different technology, some simple, some complicated. Thank you very much.